The European Commission has released its report on the EU-Turkey deal to resettle refugees. It says 325 so-called irregular migrants have been returned to Turkey, while 103 Syrians have been relocated from Turkey into the EU. The EU said there was good progress on halting the migrant flow, though further efforts were still required. And Kevin Ozebek is following this story from Brussels. He joins us now live. Kevin, thanks for your time. Now, what is in the report, and is the Commission calling this a success?
Well, this report that was released just a few minutes ago does call the EU-Turkey migration plan, at least in its initial stages, a success. Now, this program has been underway for just 3 weeks now, and you just went over the numbers that so far just over 300 refugees who've arrived in Greece have been returned to Turkey, and about 100 Syrians who were living in Turkey have been relocated into the EU. As you may remember, a key component of this EU-Turkey agreement is that for every Syrian the EU sends back to Turkey, the EU has to directly resettle in Europe a Syrian refugee living in Turkey. Now, commissioners say this is a success because the number of migrants and refugees flowing from Turkey into Greece has slowed down to just a trickle. Now, months ago, we were seeing 1,000 to 2,000 refugees and migrants landing in the Greek Isles every single day, but now we're seeing just a few dozen every single day. Obviously, this is aimed at stopping human trafficking, so commissioners say this appears to be doing just that, and that's why they are calling it a success. But also in this report, it does say that some EU member countries still have to do some work in terms of opening up spaces in their countries for Syrian refugees that will have to be moved from Turkey back into the EU. And in this report, commissioners are calling on those member states to do just that, to firm up some spaces and to make sure as many Syrians can be moved from Turkey into Europe as possible.
So while, some member states involved in this particular deal may see this as a success, what about outside of Brussels? Does everyone see this as a success?
Well, this has been... Absolutely not, and this has been a very controversial plan, even when this was just a proposal before it was even signed and made into a plan. Refugee rights advocates say this plan still strips away the rights of asylum seekers and really is Europe closing off its borders just to a select few. So that is the main issue with many NGOs and many refugee rights advocates. There's also been some concerns at the very beginning of this plan when it was implemented in the first few days that some migrants were being sent back to Turkey without properly having their asylum rights applications processed and reviewed. So this has still been, even though it's being called a success by the European Commission, this is still a plan that's been fraught with controversy and fraught with criticism. In fact, some nonprofits, some NGOs even stopped working in the Greek Isles over protests over this plan.
Okay, thank you, Kevin, very much for that. That's Kevin Ozebek in Brussels there.